This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. If you didn't see the video I did on the border bomb going off or the car exploding, you probably should check it out. I talked about what the narratives were in that story. And that's really what you have to watch out for with any of these, is this the narrative, right? So when I saw the story and they talked about a bomb at the border, obviously the first thing you think of is a psyop, because they've been planning for all these types of psyops to occur and blame things on the border. That's going to continue to happen here, and that could have been a precursor for it. But one of the narratives that I saw was something that we'd never seen in the past. So if you all sit back and you think about the news in the past, you never would hear a story like of something going on in Afghanistan or some type of event occurring on U.S. soil, and then go to the news and then have two different narratives on the news stations, right? Fox having one and then NBC having another. You'd be like, wait, did this just occur? Oh, an explosion occurred. Okay. They would give you the same exact story on both news channels. It would just be, okay, an explosion occurred, right? Now we've gotten so insane with the left-right psyop, the left-right division, that every single story is used as a herding mechanism. So they're giving you misinformation on one channel, misinformation on the other channel, and they're addressing the fact that one news station's saying it's this and one news station's pointing a finger saying that it's that. Of course, this is to eliminate what is going to be, what is looked at as independent media. It's not. It's all state-run media. But the left-right divide is so key in this herding mechanism. Otherwise, we'd already have a one-world state-run media. So they're using these two things to go back and forth, and this is going to lead to more censorship. And after that story, that was what I covered in it. These stories have been popping up all over the place, even in Canada, even in the UK, where the headline is right-wing U.S. media covered fiction as fact. A non-existent terrorist attack from Canada at Rainbow Bridge. So this is going to bring in more censorship of what people can and cannot say, because once Fox covered it the way they covered it, all the alt-right media on YouTube, etc., covered it that way. They all came out and they said, it's a terror at the border. It's because we let all these migrants in. You know, they don't cover it and go, hey, look, how convenient, a psyop from our own government, the CIA creating a thing. They don't go to that level. They look at all these things like they're real. Like, oh, it happened because we had the border. Because they're all puppets too, for the most part. A lot of them are misinformed, but they're agents, a lot of them, right? Because they keep you herded left, right. Now, what they try to do is they try to lump you and me into this. So that works out for them because they hear me or anyone who's a conspiracy theorist, what they deem one, who talks about the topics we talk about, they call right wing, right? We automatically are now lumped into it. It never was like that before, but they started to do that. That was the whole purpose of the Q movement, was to be able to use that as a way to get people out there when they hear these stories. They automatically in their brain, via programming, via the mind control, will link us to Q. So they'll hear me. They won't ever, listen to all the videos I do where I talk about Q being a government-run operation, that it's a psyop, it's a CIA-created situation, and they will automatically push us into that window. So when we talk about stories like this, it leads to more censorship of people like me and you, because they'll say, well, the right-wing U.S. media covered fiction as fact, misinformation. We have to control the flow of information, and people like us will get lumped into it. Eventually, obviously, nobody will be able to report on this stuff except the state, okay? Because all these YouTube channels, everything is going to be obsolete. They're going to get rid of all of it. And eventually, even the website I have, Uprising Revival, they'll get to those too in the future. That's why we need to get more people over to the website, signed up for the website, because it's a last means. People are like, well, get to BitChute, get to Rumble. They're all going to be censored, okay? All of them are. Don't think for 1 second the people running, they're like, oh, they're beacons of freedom and beacons of free speech. They're not. A lot of the alt-right people have infiltrated those platforms like Russell Brand, etc. That's all done by design. They're just herding you over to other areas where they're data mining and doing all sorts of other things to people who are over on those websites. So obviously the websites are, my website, Uprising Revival, is a clear, clean place to be right now. Eventually they'll be taking down websites too. But the bigger and larger audience that's over there, the more people we have over there, that's really huge for all of us, because we can all not only communicate with each other, we don't have to be censored over there and worry about what we say and what we don't say. Here on these platforms, they're going to use these types of stories to continue to put more restrictions in place. And again, what they've done over the years, for those of you that have woken up recently, is they've eliminated, there were so many channels on YouTube who spoke freely and about all this stuff. We used to all go into deep detail about every event that occurred. We'd look at all the pictures and the news clips that they showed us and break them down and show you how fake it was, and bodies being moved and all these types of things. It was crazy, but it was great. That's what we used to do here on YouTube. They eliminated and wiped out everybody, and they've obviously wiped out people like me dozens of times because they continue to try to come back. most people just gave up over here because they were like, I don't want to deal with the censorship. I don't want to rebuild the channel because it's a nightmare. Trust me, I know from experience, it's an absolute nightmare and a headache, just as much as it is for you to hear me complain about it or tell you to go to this channel or that channel. So they wiped everybody out. So that was like the first wave of this. Now we're at a point where people don't even, they go to the Russell Brands or they go to the Daily Wire and they get their information there. Those people do not break down and do anything about any of these events. The real people they were worried about are all gone. They've all been run off the internet. And I'm one of those people. I'm still here, but I can't talk the way that I used to talk and show you the clips I used to show you, right? So it also dwindles my audience down. People go to these other mainstream people now and, get their information there and don't realize that those people think that and teach their audience that all these events are actually real. That's the problem. They're like, the border thing, oh my goodness, it's because these idiot Democrats let these people in. It's like, no. These are CIA operations. All of this stuff is psychological. It's a psychological herding mechanism. The reality you think is going on is not real, okay? And if we look at things from that perspective, a psychological one, we can start unwrapping this entire matrix that they have us all weaved into. We can start cutting it up and breaking it down and pulling people out of it. So obviously stories like this start leading to that. And then what's funny too is like the Daily Wire and all these people who have stepped in and really taken the place of all, and I'm sure you could all name a bunch of people you used to listen to who are no longer around. You probably don't even remember half of them. I don't, because they take my channels down. I was subscribed to so many, I don't know, even remember half of them. If I saw them, I'd be like, oh, I remember them if they're still here. But, everybody's gone through the same thing. But, you look at like the Daily Wire and these frauds who have come in and try to be like these beacons of freedom, etc., and they act like these news events are real. They never talk about how they make all this stuff up, how all these stories are created. This is what the CIA, the FBI do, okay? Then you see, I saw a clip for the Daily Wire. I kid you not. They were, advertising one of their people who's, someone like me, I guess, just somebody who's on there supposedly independently and talks about the news, etc. They're in a movie. They're always making, Snow White movies. I'm like, what? Snow White is one of the biggest mind control all of those movies come through the CIA. They're all MK Ultra productions. The Wizard of Oz. You ever think of why little girls want to be princesses and all this stuff? This is all programming, Cinderella programming. This is all right from the CIA. This is MK Ultra, right? So Snow White's another one. And then we have the Daily Wires putting their so-called news anchors in movies. They're making movies Snow White, and I guess people gush over the girl or gush over the people that are on. I mean, it's a joke. It's an utter joke. What needs to happen is a revolution. And these people who are daily, we're fighting against the liberal-controlled media. And they're using liberal-controlled CIA scripts like Snow White, and they're making movies. This is what they're doing in their spare time. Instead of trying to get people prepared, get people to get food supply, water, to interact and know where each other are, know where their underground. So these are the things that we need to be doing. This is what I'm trying to do. There's stuff on the website that we could all obviously talk about with each other over there. That's what everybody should be doing because we're under attack. But instead, the alt-right media is making Snow White films. They're putting themselves in these roles. I mean, it's hilarious. It's such a joke. It's an utter joke. So back to the story and what I'm covering here is you have the right-wing U.S. media. The people like the Daily, they all came out, Fox News, and they just pushed that narrative, right? Oh, it's a terror. And this is all done by design. Right? Because then you're going, who's real news? Who's fake news? Who's real news? Who's fake news? They're giving fake news. Then they get called out. Then the right wing call out the left wing. They're like, they're not reporting on Hunter Biden. They're fake news. They said that was misinformation. And then it goes back and forth till people's heads explode. And then they come in and they go, we're eliminating all these things. We're putting fact check, real ones in. And it's state run. Right? And everything is just under, and there's no more, herd, and there's no more left, right. And that's what ultimately they want. And they're going to drive people insane to the point where they want it too. Right? So here's the article. The right-wing U.S. media covered fiction as fact. A non-existent terrorist attack from Canada at Rainbow Ridge. Erroneous reports about border incident fed a frenzy of speculation and calls for a northern border wall. For a few hours Wednesday afternoon, Canada appeared to be staring down the barrel of an unwelcome and potentially painful international crisis. News reports were awash in misinformation following an explosion at the Canadian-U.S. border. Some U.S. media began describing it as a terrorist explosion caused by a vehicle entering from Canada. Every element of the preceding sentence was dispelled within hours as flat out wrong. There was no attack from Canada. The incident occurred entirely on U.S. soil. In fact, authorities don't believe it was a terror attack at all. That didn't stop a candidate for president of the United States from appearing on Fox News to promote an aspect of his platform, building a border wall with Canada. I have been sounding the alarm bell about the northern border for a long time, said Vivek Ram. I don't know what to say his last name. Ramaswamy. You've seen this guy. He's always, just doing the act on television for trying to be president. He's trying to pretend he's a beacon of hope, where these people, they're all really rich. They're all going to Ivy League schools. They're all part of it. So anyway, he says in a lengthy interview about the incident he did not witness, was not a subject matter expert on it, had no insight into. He says, this is a mounting crisis. We're ignoring it. The Republic. So that's another key thing, right? He didn't witness it. He wasn't a subject matter, so he shouldn't have He shouldn't have an opinion on it either. They don't want you to have an opinion on the news. The simple fact is that it's all fake. That should be what everybody on the left or the right is covering. We know the left won't because they're communists. So all the people on the right are covering these news stories like they're real news stories. That's the problem. These are all manipulated, created, manufactured is the word. Manufactured news. That's what it is, to herd you. So conveniently it happens at the border. Conveniently they tell you on one side it's terror. Conveniently the other side, because they want open borders, they tell you, oh, that's a conspiracy. And they go back and forth. It's so easy to see how fake all this stuff is. And convenient for what they're trying to do, for their narrative, how it fits, right? So these stories are in place as mechanisms to control the information flow, what we can and cannot say, right? So it goes on, even like the Beast, Daily Beast. I love how they use the word beast, right? They, all these people are covering it, right? Fox isn't coming out and covering it, NBC, but all these other second wing media outlets are covering. Fox News forced to walk back, terrorist attack claim at Rainbow Bridge, right? Oh, they jumped the gun. Oh, they just said it was because they're so obsessed with the border, et cetera, et cetera. Talking points that are getting fed to the people through Fox News, through the mainstream media. They're feeding these, it's like we hear about the border. Well, where do you think all this stuff from the border comes from? Never in the past have we had cameras hovering over the border before, right? This is part of the psychological op, right? I'm not saying that the border isn't open, okay? But this is done by, because it's probably really, they're letting people in, but we've never had coverage like this, right? In the 90s, they weren't sitting there with cameras at the border so you could see how many people were coming in. They're doing this by design now because it's working people and herding people into the psyop, right? The whole border thing is going to lead to attacks in America, and then there's a boogeyman to blame, is the open border, right? They've been doing this for years by design, preparing you for the annihilation of this country that's about to happen, right? It's all, but nobody thinks like that. They're like, all of a sudden the borders are open. This is crazy. What's going on down there? Because the news is feeding you that. The news is deliberately sitting there with drones and cameras showing you this, and our government's likely paying all of these people to cross over on purpose with our tax money so that they can have this on film. And of course, any type of attack from within, they'll claim it's like, oh, these people from Mexico, these people from other countries who come in at the Mexican border. But it really be your CIA, your FBI doing it in America. They're orchestrating it as we speak. While you're looking this way, it's happening from within. These organizations that should be disbanded continue to get funded. So that's all done by design. People don't realize that. They just think that any of this stuff is real. They're like, no, it's real at the border. Did you see the footage? It's like, what do you think? It's beyond them to pay people to come in? They're like, oh, the liberals are paying them to come in, so they come in and vote. But don't you see how crazy this is, what they're doing? They want you also to be heard that way. Otherwise, they wouldn't let it out in the news. They'd be like, cancel all camera equipment at the border. Shut it all down. Anything flying, any drone, shoot it down. We don't want people to see how many people we're letting in. They want you to know they're coming in. That's the point. They control the media. Okay, so why would they let you see what's actually, this stuff that's actually occurring? It's not actually occurring. It's occurring from manipulation. It's occurring because they're letting it occur, but on top of it, they want it filmed. They want you to see it, and they want to beat it into your head that it's happening, so they create a false reality, so they have these things to blame when they do this attack from within, so you're not looking directly at them. Actually, because people will look at them and they'll be like, well, they're the ones that let them in at the border. Oh, they let them in because they wanted them to vote. If you knew that they were actually plotting in our own country to kill us at these agencies, that they were creating all these, they have all these things mapped out where they're going to blow up trains and put chemicals in the water. They're going to blow up buildings here, buildings there, and anything that's about to happen in the future. If you knew that they were doing this, sitting in our country doing this, while you're looking over at the border, they'd be stopped. That's the point, right? And people don't think like that. They just, they're like, I don't, because their brains still can't wrap their heads around. That's why they need things like the Daily Wire so that they fit, oh yeah, we got to go after them at the border. This is ridiculous. It's like the left and the right are working the border. They're filming it, showing it to you because they're psychologically hurting you. That's all this stuff is. So just like I said with the story, when it came out, about the attack there was to watch that narrative. Watch the narrative, because the first thing I saw was that, okay, I saw a clip from Fox and I saw a clip from NBC, and they're both reporting it completely different. That never happens in the news. They're doing the same thing over in the Middle East. The news used to be, okay, here's the story, here's what happened, and you can watch it on every single channel, whichever anchor you like, and put yourself to sleep watching it. And they would just do that over and over. Now it's different perspectives, and that is done by design to bring in this communist one world state-run media. And again, it is one run. This is controlled media, but it's right now it's the illusion still that we're free. So they're going to take all this down. They're going to put more restrictions in. They're going to put more restrictions on YouTube and all over the internet by design, because they're going to say, well, these people are, they reported it as some type of a terror event, and it wasn't. They jumped the gun. We have to watch for misinformation. Okay, well, we're going to have to watch when you upload, see what you're talking about, and allow, if we can let you upload it or not, et cetera. You can't upload in real time because you're putting misinformation out there when we need real information out there, et cetera. These are all things that are coming, and these are the things that they put out there by design. That's why both sides have a different perspective on the news. It's to bring about more censorship of us, and eventually have a one-head state-run media like China. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Again, I hope to see more people over on the website, uprisingrevival.com. It's linked below. Check it out if you haven't yet. Do yourself a favor. It's well worth $2.99 a month. There is unbelievable amount of information over there. My entire archive of years and years and years of video continually is being uploaded over there. So thousands of videos will eventually be on there. There's hundreds and hundreds of videos now, but there's also new content as well of current events that are happening that I can't cover here on YouTube. So check it out. I thank everyone for being here. God bless all of you as always and your families.